Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping into the high-stakes world of aviation. But we're not here to talk about fancy jets. We're here to understand how professionals conquer the single biggest danger in the sky, which it turns out is themselves. Okay, let's just kick things off with a number that should really grab your attention: 80%. That is the estimated percentage of all aviation accidents that are caused not by some catastrophic engine failure or a freak weather event, but by human factors. Just let that sink in. 4 out of every 5 times something goes wrong, it comes down to a human being making a mistake. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Most of these errors happen during takeoff and landing. Now, when you think about it, those are the shortest parts of any flight, right? But together, they account for almost half of all accidents. So why is that? Well, it's because they are the most mentally demanding parts of the flight, requiring absolute focus when the plane is in its most vulnerable state, close to the ground. So, how does an entire industry deal with such a fundamental human problem? Well, you can't just cross your fingers and hope for the best. You have to build a system. And that's exactly what aviation did. They developed this incredibly powerful framework for thinking clearly under pressure, and it's called aeronautical decision-making, or ADM for short. Now, ADM isn't about having some kind of magical gut feeling or just being a natural pilot. Nope. It is a structured mental framework. It's a process, a repeatable way to look at a situation, assess the risks, manage your own stress, and consistently make the best possible choice, especially when everything around you is changing. And this, right here, this gets to the absolute core idea of ADM. For the longest time, people just assumed that good judgment was something you got with experience. You either had it or you didn't. But aviation came along and proved that's just not true. Good judgment isn't a gift, it's a skill. And just like any other skill, you can break it down, you can learn it, and you can practice it until it becomes second nature. Okay, so to build that skill, first you have to know what you're up against. You have to understand the enemy. And in this case, the enemy is the set of psychological traps that we all fall into. Pilots are specifically trained to recognize 5 mental shortcuts that can lead to really bad decisions. They call them the 5 hazardous attitudes. Sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. This is a classic example of a hazardous attitude. The official name for this one is invulnerability, and it's one of 5 very distinct mental traps that can lead even the sharpest, most experienced professionals into making some truly catastrophic mistakes. And here they are. You see, it's not enough for pilots to just know these attitudes exist. They are trained to memorize the specific antidotes. So, for instance, the second you feel that anti-authority voice in your head saying, "Don't tell me what to do," the trained response is to immediately counter it with, "Follow the rules. They are usually right." The whole point is to build this automatic mental reflex, recognize the dangerous thought, name it, and then instantly shut it down with the antidote. It's like a mental firewall against making a dumb decision. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that macho attitude. It's that little voice that wants to show off, to prove you've got the right stuff. But it's that exact impulse that leads people to take foolish, unnecessary risks. Just recognizing that feeling is the first huge step to shutting it down. So spotting those attitudes in yourself is step 1. But the next step is to use a practical, repeatable tool to actually size up the risk before you even get started. It's like a pre-flight check for your brain, and it's called the PAVE checklist. The real beauty of the PAVE checklist is just how simple it is. It forces a pilot to just stop for a second and systematically think through the 4 big areas of risk. It starts with P for pilot. Am I physically and mentally ready to do this? Am I tired? Stressed? Then it's A for aircraft. Is the machine I'm using up to the task? After that comes V for environment. What are the conditions I'm about to fly into? And finally, and this one is so important, E for external pressures. And that last letter, E, is so often the most dangerous one. External pressures, the burning desire to get home, the pressure to stick to a schedule, or just that feeling that you don't want to let someone down. Those feelings are powerful. They can be powerful enough to make a pilot completely ignore all the other red flags they just identified. It's that human element that can short-circuit the entire system. So you're probably thinking, okay, this is all fascinating, but I'm not a pilot. Why does any of this matter to me? Well, it's because these tools that were forged in the cockpit are actually powerful frameworks for making better decisions anywhere, in any part of your life. all of these pilot tools are built on 4 basic universal principles of managing risk. First, don't take risks you don't have to. Second, make decisions at the right level. Give the power to the person who can actually do something about the risk. Third, only accept a risk when the potential benefit is clearly worth the cost. And finally, build this way of thinking into all of your planning, not just as an afterthought. These rules apply to pretty much any decision you'll ever make. Seriously, think about it. The next time you're facing a big project or a tough personal decision, just ask yourself, what are my hazardous attitudes right now? Am I being impulsive? Am I feeling that it won't happen to me vibe? And then just run a quick PAVE check. What are the risks related to me, the tools I'm using, the environment I'm in, and what are the external pressures pushing me to make a certain choice? You know, when you really boil it all down, the most powerful lesson we can take from the cockpit is that good judgment is not some innate talent you're born with. It's a skill. It's a structured, repeatable process. And that kind of leaves us with a final question to think about. When the stakes are high in your own life, what's your process for making the right call?